Alright guys, welcome back to another tying video. Today we're going to be tying a fly, we call it the lead lotus. It's basically an iron lotus variation, and I came up with this fly during one of my live fly tying sessions. I think it was Joe Milstead. He actually asked me to tie an iron lotus, and at the time I didn't have the correct ribbing material, so what we ended up coming up with was using this lead wire for the rib, and that's how we dubbed it the lead lotus. It's not a very thick lead wire, so it's not much of a weight difference, but it's definitely going to help your fly get down a little bit quicker. So I don't want to waste much more time here talking about the fly. I'm just going to go ahead and get straight into showing you guys the materials, and then we'll go ahead and get to tying it. Alright, so to start the materials list off for this fly, the first thread that we're going to be using is Veevus E14 E16, and that's going to be for the body, and then Veevus E16 E16 for the hot spot on the fly. The tail is made from light Coq De Leon fibers. The ribbing material is where this fly gets its name. We're going to be using lead wire in 1/100th of an inch. It's not a lot, but it definitely helps with getting your fly down to the bottom of the stream. The collar is made from olive brown hare's ear dubbing. The bead is a gold 2.8mm slotted tungsten bead. And lastly, the hook is an Orientsun 5241 in size 16. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into tying this fly. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start by putting our hook in the vise upside down, and then just getting our bead and slipping that over the hook point. This just makes it a lot easier for those smaller flies to get that bead over the hook. And then we'll go ahead and flip it around and secure it in our vise here. Next, we're going to get our thread ready on our bobbin if you haven't done so already. And because this fly uses two different threads, if you have an extra bobbin, you can go ahead and get your thread ready on that bobbin as well. It just makes the tying process a lot quicker. And this is a little trick I like to do when I'm threading the bobbin. Just go ahead and insert a small piece there on that end, and then you can go ahead and just suck the thread through. This works about 95% of the time, and it's just a lot quicker and saves you a lot of hassle of threading the bobbin. Now that we have both of our bobbins threaded, we're going to go ahead and just start the olive thread right behind the bead and just start working our way backwards. You can come in and snip that tag end off before you make it to the back, and then just continue your thread back to the bend in the hook. Now we're going to take our Coq De Leon, and I like to pull off about 6 or 7 fibers for the tail, but this is all preference. Basically, you can pull off however many you prefer for your tails. Once you have your tail fibers ready, we're going to go ahead and secure those to the hook here with a nice little pinch wrap, and then just take a few light wraps, and then you can come in and adjust the tail fibers to your preferred length. And then once you have them where you like them, go ahead and just work your thread up to behind the bead. And then I'm just going to adjust the bead here to make sure it's sitting right. And then you can come in with your tying scissors and snip off that excess Coq De Leon. Next, we're going to get a piece of our lead wire for our rib. I'm just going to break off a small piece here, but if you're going to be tying multiple flies, you can break off more. Once you have your piece of lead wire, we're just going to go ahead and secure that to the hook shank here, and then just work our thread backwards using light wraps. Remember, this is lead, so you don't want to take too tight of wraps because you'll end up cutting the lead in half. And once you've made it back to the tail, on the way back up to the bead, you're just going to make touching wraps, making sure that you're covering up all of that lead wire. Then you can start making open wraps up towards the bead with your lead wire, just giving them even spacing and then give it a nice segmentation look. Again, remember not to pull too tight when you're wrapping that up the hook shank because it is lead and it will snap off very easily. And once you make it up behind the bead, you can go ahead and just tie off that lead there with your thread and then just break off the excess lead. At this point, we're going to go ahead and do a 3 or 4 turn whip finish. And this is so we can UV coat this part of the fly before moving on to putting on the collar and the hot spot. Now we're going to go ahead and UV coat this part of the fly. And again, this is for 2 reasons. One being that the lead is very fragile. So by giving it a UV coat, we're upping the durability of the fly. And the second part is when we were doing the live fly tying session and we actually ended up coming up with this fly, it turns out that I noticed when I was looking at the camera, it seems like that UV cure resin sort of interacts with that lead and it sort of gives it like this dark outline. You guys can sort of see it there on the camera, but I'm not sure if there's some sort of chemical reaction going on, but I think that it helps, make that lead wire pop on the fly and gives it a really pronounced ribbing. And once you've covered the entire fly with the UV cure, you can just come in with your UV light and give it a nice 30-second cure, and then we'll move on to the next step. After UV curing the fly, you're going to grab your extra bobbin with the fluorescent orange thread, or if you didn't have an extra bobbin, go ahead and spool up the fluorescent orange thread now. And then we'll just start the thread here right behind the bead with about 3 or 4 wraps and snip off that excess. Once you've started the orange thread, we're going to go ahead and grab a small little pinch of our hare's ear dubbing. And then you can go ahead and make yourself a small little dubbing noodle. After creating our dubbing noodle, we'll go ahead and just wrap that dubbing here right in behind the bead. Once all the dubbing's wrapped on the hook shank, I just like to come in with my whip finishing tool and just give it a nice 4 or 5 turn whip finish. And then sometimes if the hot spot's not good enough, I'll come in and do like another 3 turn whip finish just to kind of get it to where I like it. And we'll go ahead and pull tight, and we can come in with our scissors and snip off the excess. Sometimes if the dubbing looks a little shaggy, I'll come in with my scissors and just snip off the extra pieces that are sort of sticking out. A lot of people like the shaggy look, but I'm very particular with my flies, and so I like them to look nice and neat, so I come in and snip that stuff off. But you can definitely leave them, and I'm sure they look like little legs or something to the fish. And as I do with all my flies, we're going to go ahead and just put a nice little touch of UV cure right there on the thread wraps. This just helps with the overall durability of the fly. And then you can come in with your UV cure light and then just give it a nice 10-second cure. And at that point, the fly is done. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. I actually haven't used this fly yet, but I've used iron lotus patterns in the past and they're super effective. So I have no doubt in my mind that this pattern will perform just as well. The only difference being that it has a little extra weight with that lead ribbing. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and then leave a like on the video. It lets me know that you guys like these fly tying videos and want to see more of these. And then drop a comment below, let me know if you guys are going to tie some of this pattern and what you think of the pattern, and leave any suggestions for future videos. And until next time, peace.